At about noon, the judge did sign our temporary restraining order. So what that means is until November 19th, the sale is off. The sale has been stopped. All the proceedings have been stopped. We will have the hearing on that day, and it'll be our burden to convince the court that he should issue a permanent injunction, which would mean we're stopping it for good. We have made our basis for the TRO basically 6 different points. And I'll be glad to give you a copy. We only have one, y'all can share it, but basically 6 different points, all the way from alleging that the notice violation was improper to the fact that the highlights, the biggest one I think would be 2 of them. The second one, that when Lincoln Park was relocated from the original spot to this spot, there was an agreement between the City of Brownsville and the Department of Transportation wherein the city agreed that that property that the Department of Highway was giving would be used as a park only, so that they would keep it as a park. So obviously when you're going to sell it, you're going against that fiduciary agreement you made. And another one of our biggest points that was brought up by a colleague here present was that Mrs. McGowan is an employee of the University of Texas. She is a medical director for one of the outfits that they have here. So her being an employee of the University of Texas causes problems, if you can imagine. Basically, there is a statute that says that if you have a conflict of interest, you have to disclose that conflict of interest. And also the city charter does dictate, their own city charter dictates that if a city official has a conflict with any item that's being put on the agenda, discussed on the agenda, because of her employment, and like in this case, that person needs to file an affidavit of disclosure and not participate in the proceedings. So if Rose McGowan had done that, she would have been disqualified, and there would have been 6 members left on the commission, the mayor and the other 5 city commissioners. As you know, the vote was 3-3. So without McGowan there, the vote would have been 3-3, and the item would not have passed. This is some of the arguments we're going to be making on November 19th. And again, I just want to, we're very happy at this point, and I do want to thank everybody that's part of the team. But again, also remind everybody that this is not over. So we have to be cautiously optimistic that we will, carry our points on November 19th. But for now, the sale has been stopped.
Louis,
yes, sir.
Go ahead. The reporter was
Mr. Saenz, where did you file this, and what judge issued
this is filed. We don't file it. It ended up in the 138 with Judge Nelson. Correct.
And that's where you'll be on November 19th?
Correct, November 19th, correct.
Do you have anything to say to the city?
No. I don't I don't have anything to say to them. This is litigation, and obviously as passionate as we feel about our side, they feel the same. But that's the reason that this building is there, so we can, like decent human beings, check our, differences there and have it settled. I mean, no, I don't have anything bad to say about it.
As a citizen of Brownsville, that's how you're doing this.
Correct. And again, you would notice that we're outside because I don't want to use the office, because this is not, as the DA, it's a private citizen that I'm taking this initiative.
Mr. Saenz, how do you believe, because my understanding is that this was part of the agreement of the UTRGB coming down here and accessing the 300 acres of land. That's what the mayor told me. How do you believe that this will affect that?
I don't think it'll affect them. I mean, again, you're talking about the University of Texas, who has enough money to fill every bank here in the city of Brownsville. It's not going to affect them at all. It's been my contention since day one that they don't need this particular property. What's trending these days for universities is that to make it accessible to everybody, you have different locations across the city. In fact, they have a location on Price Road, they have a location on Alton Floor. So for them to say that we're going to fall apart now because we don't have this location, that doesn't make sense.
More importantly, if I could chime in and help you answer.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
I'm Michael Cowan. At the hearing that the city had and the university had to make the findings that they wanted to make to try to prove this deal, we got to ask them questions. And they admitted, the University of Texas, they don't have any current plans for it. They don't know if they're going to get it in the next 5 years. They don't know if they're going to get it in the next 10 years. There's no harm in leaving it as a park, and then if in 5 or 10 years they really need it, then we can look at the issue. But to give it now to them for less than the appraisal that the University of Texas had, their own Board of Regents minutes show a $9 million appraisal, and then to give it to them for only $6.5 move our park to buy a sewage facility that stinks, and and have our kids play baseball there and have our families out in the barbecue by a sewage facility that stinks for something that might not even be needed, there's no legal justification to do that. And then, of course, when we found out that one of the commissioners that cast the deciding vote had a conflict of interest because she was employed by UT, we had to file something.
Mr. Saenz and
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Cowan,
Yes, sir.
first of all, I just gotta say, you've given Brownsville so much hope.
And
Thank
Mr.
you.
Kendall's also
And
involved.
Mr. Kendall, I'm sorry, Matthew. I mean, it took courage for me, extraordinary courage for the three of you to put your name on the